Dear young global leaders, it's an absolute pleasure for us, Mongolian youth and Mongolian young global leaders, to welcome you here in Mongolia. We're absolutely delighted that you could make it to our very fresh Ulaanbaatar. Fresh is a replacement of a bit cold, fresh Ulaanbaatar. And welcome to Mongolia, and I hope that you will enjoy these 2 days. And it's not only about enjoyment, but also productive contribution to the discussion on young leadership and youth participation in policy making and decision making. So I'm currently a member of parliament, and the young people sitting here are representatives of, some are from secondary schools, some are students, and some are probably young professionals. And because I'm told that all of them speak English, we don't need a translation, so the session will be in English. Now, you probably heard about World Economic Forum, and part of the World Economic Forum is a very exciting program network called Young Global Leaders. And this forum, this network of Young Global Leaders, is a unique multi-stakeholder community of more than 700 exceptional young leaders who share a commitment to shaping the global future. When I say young, it means that no, Mongolia is a very young country. We have 2.8 million population, and 1 million is under 18, and it's a big pyramid like this. So for young global leaders, anybody can apply for young global leadership participation if you're under age 39 or 40, 39, 40. So that you're not too confused, right? We have more than 30 young global leaders today for these 2 days in Mongolia. And this morning's session is about youth leadership, how young people can make themselves leaders from the early stage and early age, and don't have to wait until they are 40 or 50. And also about the importance of participation of young people in the policy making and decision making. I don't think there is any question anymore why there is a need. Everybody understands that democracy is about participation, good governance about participation, and especially participation of young people. So the question is, first of all, about youth leadership, how young leaders can become very active in the society and become leaders, and to what extent, what's the degree of participation, what's the nature and what's the methods of participation of young people, and how to get actually the current decision makers and policy makers to listen as well. I think Mongolian young people are getting increasingly informed and becoming a lot more critical about the challenges, about the issues that Mongolia is facing, and demonstrate very good clarity on current issues and express very strongly their feelings about the need and participation. So I would like to introduce, I'll be introducing one by one probably. We have a panel of very interesting, very energetic and dynamic leaders from Mongolia and from abroad. And I would like to invite first Nami Matsuko, who's head of the Corporate Citizenship Department of Nomura Holdings. And she's been in the investment banking section and contributed to policy making for Japanese capital market to be more attractive and global. Currently, Nami is engaged in Beyond Tomorrow project with fellow YGLs to provide leadership and art education to young generation struck by the earthquake in East Japan. She is a member of New York Bar Association and has a law degree from New York University, Georgetown Law Center and New York University. Thank you very much, Nani, you're first. And I would like everybody to speak about maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and then it's informal, and then we'll get answer a question session after everybody spoke. Okay, thank you. Yes. Yeah. You just push the mic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, my name is Nagi Natsuko, and I'm from Japan. And she introduced me as a specialist in investment banking and also the capital market. I'm not going to talk about capital market today. Rather, I'm going to talk about what we are trying to do as to the young people's education on leadership in Japan who were struck by this disaster. You know that we had a big disaster, earthquake and tsunami in this March 11th. Have you heard of that? Yes. Okay. So let me just talk about what we're trying to do for that. Okay. But before that, just a little note. I'm very honored to meet with you all, and also I feel kind of comfortable talking to you all from here because now I know why. Because I think you kind of pretty much look alike me. I mean that I heard that long time ago, Japanese people really came from the land of Mongolia area, so that we have the same DNA and stuff. I think is that right? True. I think so. But anyway, so I kind of feel very comfortable. So thank you very much. Okay, let me talk about the disaster first a little bit. And as you know that I think that you saw a lot of pictures and stuff on TV and what happened. And even half a year passed since the March 11th. We have still like 20,000 people died or missing. So there are still a lot of people who cannot even meet with the dead body of their relative or their loved one. So the people are very disappointed and devastated. But at the same time, there's a lot of talk on the reconstruction of the area. That is the area of the eastern part of Japan. I think some of you have come to probably Tokyo, right? And I think you have the kind of impression of Tokyo as a cool city or rich city maybe. But when it comes to the eastern part of Japan, that is a pretty up north. This is the area where not many people go, or there's a lot of the whole Japan is right now the aging society, so we have a lot of older generations, but especially in the east side of Japan, the problem of aging is a big one. And I was just surprised to see that so many people are under 18, right? But right now, in the eastern part of Japan, about 30% or 40%, almost 30 actually, 30% of the people in the eastern part, which were struck by this earthquake and tsunami, are above 60. Age of 60. So there are a lot of old people there, and a lot of Japanese young people even want to get out of that city and the areas and come to Tokyo to work. And then we had this March 11th, and that's made much more damage on that area. And because of tsunami and earthquake, and as you probably saw in the pictures of TV or something, now we have nothing. All the fields and rice fields, actually the 30% of the Japanese rice are produced in that area, but now all the rice fields are pretty gone. And it's been really affected by the sea salt, so that it's going to take a lot of time to revitalize the rice field. And also we have many small fishery areas in that areas, but now they're all gone. So it will take a lot of time. And it's difficult because, as I said, even before March 11th, less and less people wanted to live there. And more young people wanted to come to Tokyo rather than stay there. So in order to revitalize that area, we really need young people. And we really need young Japanese people who find that eastern part of Japan attractive. And in order to do so, we really need the effort of young people. So that we actually, including Daisuke Iwase there, that's Japanese under the YGL there. There are about 20 of us in YGL in Japan came up together, and we formed a group called Beyond Tomorrow. And it's basically a scholarship program, but our focus on the education on leadership. And we don't really focus only on making the elite or people who are up up there. But we try to focus more on the kind of regional or local leadership, because in order to revitalize a local area, we need local people's peace. We need local people's commitment there. So that we do give scholarship to those people who would like to stay there, and if we would like to make that eastern part of Japan attractive for the young people. So that actually I'd like to ask my fellow YGLs too, that if you're going to go to Dalian, I actually bring 7 of the students from Japan who have that experience to talk to you. So if you're interested, please come forward and talk to them in Dalian. But at the same time, I'd like to make these students who we give scholarship to be ambassadors to the world. We'd like them to stay in the local areas and do whatever they can do in local. But at the same time, I'd like these local young people to exchange views with people from Mongolia or other countries as well, so that they know what you are doing in the local area here is something that the local people in Japan will do at the same time. So that kind of exchange or ambassador program is something that we are pushing towards as well. So in conclusion, I just wanted to let you know that even we had a maybe sad incident in March 11th, and still it's a lot of things to do, but at the same time that we try to encourage young people in Japan to be the driver for the recovery of Japan. Thank you very much.
Many of us in the world admire very much the Japanese nation for their patience, for their, how much everybody was trying to each other, and then we're very moved by your initiative as well, Nami. So I hope that, we know that last week in Mongolia we also received some children and young people from tsunami area, and then helped them to have some good time here in Mongolia, and it was in our media as well. Now I'd like to introduce Mindorshi Hamarteban, and he's a founder and currently a CEO of a group called New Media Group, which is 6 companies, and all operating in the marketing industry of Mongolia. It's a new group, but very fast rising. And Mendoshik was one of the first participants in One Young World, held in Zurich, Switzerland, and we understand that this One Young World was created by some people who are also YGLs, is it? Kate Robertson and David Jones and some other people, and some of them were young global leaders, and Mendoshik was one of the first Mongolians to participate in this forum. And I think Mendoshik will share some of his views, and especially on social entrepreneurship and some of the ideas that he has. Thank you.
Yeah, 15 months ago, I decided to become a social entrepreneur and started my own first startup company called New Media Marketing Agency. Now, under the New Media Group, we have 6 separate organizations are running with over 40 people. So yeah, what makes us different? Instead of spending too much money on traditional media, we just help non-profit organizations. Actually, the first job we made was helping a non-profit who was raising money in America and bringing health equipment in Mongolia to help Mongolian people. That was the first actual job when I did it. And empower human-centered business is our core value. what we mean by that is, from the starting point, companies should realize that how they should need to help their community instead of becoming one of the biggest one and trying to make something happen or something. Also, we started a humanitarian movement which is called Zerlik. That's like Mongolian bloggers, over 100, around 50 bloggers gathered and decided to change something. They had heard that they will change, they can bring the difference, that in 2015 Mongolian bloggers gathered and decided to build world-class hospital in Mongolia. That's our movement. And also we established open source program which will be anyone can download and run it, whether it's online or offline, to start their own university. We have seen now lots of universities, or for example in world class, Ivy League, MIT, Harvard, Stanford, they are putting their great presentations on video, on website for free, for all of us, for all of youth. So I've seen trouble here in Mongolia that the hyper understanding of have to learn in university or a master's right after bachelor, right after master, right after master's, right after PhD or something. But in the countryside it's hard for people who cannot access to internet or whatever, school or something. But now we are giving the world that everyone can access from their home to start their own university or just check out the other universities that they can get their education. That's what we started. That's who I am. A few days ago I went to Zurich for One Young World Summit, which was one of the, I think, the biggest youth summit in the world. Also, it's called small Davos in the world. So it was really great opportunity that I went and two other Mongolian delegates, and we had a really great experience. That check it out. It's like One Young World or .org or something common. So I've seen there are lots of youth like me, like you. We know it's sometimes we have challenge, whether it's in policy making or youth or studying or whatever, starting a business or something. But I've seen there some, most of them very, very encouraging, inspiring people. You, as I said. Seems like they didn't ask or rely on something that's saying, government is doing bad stuff, or it's hard to start a business or something. They just did. Now they actually bring democracy in their country. I've seen two people using Twitter and Facebook and new media. They can rally in this their square or whatever. They did it actually. It was really inspiring that seeing this kind of youth people. So like any of you guys, I'm a youth. I've got dreams, and I think I have already started to make my dream come true. So I hope you guys do it soon. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Mendoza. How old are you now?
26, just over.
So there's a long time to go up and up. And stepping up. I would like to introduce now Kate Roberts. She is founder of Youth AIDS and Five Alive, which is 2 marketing programs implemented by Population Services International, where Kate is Vice President of Corporate Marketing and Communications. And Kate has been named as the CNN hero and one of the Vogue 100 women by Vogue magazine. And more recently, she co-founded and serves on the board of the Global India Fund, serves on the World Economic Forum's Global Health Advisory Board, and is implementing a partnership with the Nike Foundation to scale up efforts of the Girl Effect program. And I hope you can share some interesting insights as well with us. Thank you, Kate.
So about 13 years ago, I went to Africa, and at the time I was working for an ad agency, and I was dreaming up clever campaigns to make kids smoke cigarettes and drink soda and chew bubblegum. Very, very useful use of my time. And I went to Africa, and I was struck by the poverty that I saw, especially when I noticed a funeral on every corner. And I asked somebody what was going on. And they told me quite simply that it was AIDS, and that every minute a child dies. Every day, over 7,000 young people become infected. And if I was to sort of break it down, 10 times your country's population has already died from the disease. So at that time, I thought to myself, well, what can I do? I'm just a very simple girl from a fishing village in the north of England. What can I possibly do? So I made a promise to myself at that moment that I wanted to develop a marketing campaign that would reach 1 billion young people with a message to prevent themselves from contracting HIV. But what I wanted to do was use my marketing knowledge to do that. And along the way, I learned some very, very important things. The first thing I learned was that you can't do this on your own. This little girl from the fishing village cannot do it, and nobody knows who I am. So the first thing I thought, well, I need people to help me to do this. And I need influential people. And so the first thing I did was recruit some celebrity help. And that opened the doors to many opportunities, including partnership. And again, I can't use the word partnership more. Partnership and passion are my 2 favorite things to talk about, because if you can find your passion, you can make absolutely anything happen. And my passion was to really focus on this one disease, and then to go on to other diseases, applying these techniques that I had learned forming youth AIDS. So one of the first things I did, actually, was I banged on the door of MTV. It's a very influential media network. And together we developed a plan called Staying Alive. And in one go, we were really able to reach, with the documentary, the Staying Alive documentary, we reached about 1.7 billion people with this broadcast. And it was through making these strategic partnerships happen. In partnership, especially when you're promoting a cause, and I know you're going to also hear from Gemma on this, but when you're promoting a cause, so many people just bang on doors and ask for help. And it really isn't the way to go, because especially if you're forming partnerships with businesses and celebrities and people who are really going to help you to get the word out, media, you have to think about the win-win, as in, well, what are they going to get out of it? I know, and the cause knows what we need. We need money, we need visibility, and we need to change behavior amongst young people. So the first lesson I learned was win-win. Go in with a win-win plan. Second of all, I learned that it's important to have a very simple message, because if you're trying to change behavior and you're trying to create action, the message needs to be really, really simple. And you need to go with a bang. You need something big. And I felt like MTV was a really good vehicle and a really big brand to brand this new cause with, youth AIDS. And the second thing is reaching youth and changing behavior is very difficult. And so I really just thought to myself, well, what would I like to hear? What would I like to see? I love fashion, I love music, I love sport, I love theatre. And these were some of the mediums that we were able to use to reach young people. And, you know, kids are going to listen to David Beckham and Beyonce and Bono. They're not going to listen to Kate Roberts. And so those were some of the people that we engaged in the campaign. And you might ask yourself, well, how do you go about getting David Beckham? And you know, it's very simple. You don't get if you don't ask. And that's one of the things I really did learn, because, you know, it's so overwhelming. You know, the issue of AIDS and the issue of tsunamis and disasters are so overwhelming. But if you're strategic and you form the right partnerships and you simplify your message and you ask the right questions and you come up with the right win-win scenarios, any one of you in this room can champion your cause. And I will say that it's certainly the most exciting and fulfilling thing that I've ever done in my life. And I would strongly recommend it to all of you who are looking into your future of what you can do. And you're all so incredibly powerful. If you can identify what your passion is, then develop your plan around it. And that's the last thing I'll say, because I'm hoping to get lots of great questions from you. And I don't want to hog the mic.
Thank you. It's a very inspiring story how one person can actually make a change if one gets involved. And just with one person's idea and initiative, with the help of engagement and with, as you said, partnership and passion, can actually reach 1 in 4 people in the world. Is it? Did I understand that 1.7 billion?
Yeah, well, we actually did 2 campaigns. We did one with MTV that reached 1.7 billion, and then one with the shoe company, Alder Shoes, which is actually quite a small company. By leveraging their advertising spend, we were able to reach 1.3 billion people. So
Amazing.
3 billion people.
Amazing. So if you add both, then it's 1 in 2 person almost in the world, and that's amazing. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure now to ask Enkhmuk Zoranjim, who's also a good friend of mine. Enkhmuk is now currently Vice President of Sant School. Sant School is the first private school in Mongolia, and you will be surprised, we had 100% state-owned economy until 1990, and when we opened up the market economy. So Sant School is the first private secondary school, and since then it became the leader in the field of secondary education. And Enkhmuk runs the school. He has an undergraduate degree, IT degree, from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and recently just came back doing a master's degree in education policy from Stanford. And Enkhmuk, when he was at MIT, he initiated and coordinated 1 laptop per child project by MIT in Mongolia, and I don't know how many thousands of computers were delivered to many Mongolian children in rural areas and in Ulaanbaatar. So I'd like to ask Enkhmuk to share some of his thoughts. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So I just want to start with how I started with Mom Laptop per Child program. When I started at MIT, I took a class Media Lab, and founder of actually Media Lab, Professor Negroponte, actually founded the One Laptop Per Child program. So when I took the class, I met with many professors and many people who involved in One Laptop Per Child program back in MIT. And I asked my professor if I can bring in 25 laptops to Mongolia to test it out. And the professor agreed, and when I brought the 25 laptops with a PhD student from Harvard, young Klaus, and he and I went around Mongolia and basically showed to the students and children in South Gobi, Cook School, and many schools in the city. And we got very good support from both from the students and the people, and from the members of parliament, prime minister, president, and eventually we got distributed over 10,000 laptops to public schools in the city as well as countryside. As a vice principal of Sun School, I always encourage our students to be socially responsible and do positive things to the society. And some of the things they do, they start with planting trees next to the stadium, children's park, and we work with many different organizations in Mongolia as well as abroad. The way we work with our students about leadership skills. Every summer, friends of mine from Harvard, MIT, Stanford, from the UK, Cambridge, LSE, many students come together and come to our school and work with our students on the leadership skills and also SATs, SAT training, essay writing, and many different fields. And we also, as a school, we all think that we have to be socially responsible by ourselves. And this year in March, we invited and sponsored Jun Don-tai, who is the conductor of Stanford Symphony. And he came and conducted Mongolian here with the Mongolian Symphony. And we raised money which were donated to a Japanese earthquake relief. So we believe that as a school we have to be responsible, and we make sure that our students also be responsible and contribute to the future of Mongolia. Thanks.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now, Nico Kana is a senior partner in Goose and Company's organization Change Leadership Practice. He was named one of the top 10 new gurus by Fortune magazine. And I hope you can explain also the new top guru status to us as well. It's very interesting. And included in top 25 in Consulting Professional Consulting magazine, named as a Rising Star in Fortune's 40 Under 40 issue. And among many things that I understand Nico is doing, he's been also initiated and co-leads China 2024, a 20-year longitudinal study of the development of business leaders in China, and also a member of the US-Japan Leadership Program, and many other initiatives. Everybody is getting this brochure or not? Our website, it's on website. Okay, Nico, thank you very much.
So I'm not going to try to explain to you what a management consultant actually does. Even my mother finds that a little bit difficult to understand. Essentially, we don't do anything. We just try to make other people more successful. So instead of talking about me, I'd like to talk a little bit about you. And I'd like to begin with asking you to imagine something. So imagine that 40 years have passed, and there are about, 250 of you in this room. And 10 of the 250 of you have done truly amazing, world-changing things. You've created a whole movement of schools across Mongolia. You've delivered messages that have changed the course of disease in the world, whatever it is. And the other 240 of you have contributed, but in ways that have changed the world less. Some biographer comes to try to understand what made the 10 people so extraordinary. And they use all of their research, and they come back, and they look at what each of you did yesterday, Thursday, September 8th, 2011. And they try to understand, was there something different on what the 10 people did Thursday versus everybody else? Take a minute. What I'd like to do is try to talk about what you can do on each Thursday that might help you be one of the 10. Let me give you a minute first. Just reflect on yesterday. You got up, some things happened. When you think about your yesterday, did it feel like it was in service of something extraordinary? I think most people, when they reflect on that, feel like they're a little bit out of touch on most days with the promise of what they could be. And I think that really happens for 3 reasons. And each of those reasons is completely fixable. So I'd like to share what they are and what you can do about them. So the first reason why people can be disconnected from the greatness that they can achieve is that they don't know what they want to do, which is so natural, right? There's so many things that you can do in the world. And I think what it's possible to do is just to say, well, at this moment, what's the most important why not that I can try to change? And that doesn't actually cause me to need to commit that the next day I might not get up and have an even better idea or an idea that's closer to my soul. And I think a lot of people might listen to Kate's story, for instance, and say, well, I envy her that she knew she wanted to bring this certain message to the world. But I think, actually, for Kate, she just decided, well, I'm going to start with this. And I think the story about one laptop, here was one person in a classroom, and he said, well, why not try for now to bring more technology to the world? So the first problem which you can overcome is not, and then they were going to try again. And I think in general, athletes, musicians are much better at being purposeful about how they learn than leaders. So something very important that you can do is say, okay, what's one thing that might matter to my leadership? It might be how I listen to other people. It might be how I speak. It might be how I come up with concrete steps, whatever it is. Think about that one thing on Thursday that you can practice. Don't focus too much on the result, but focus on, did it go the way I thought it might? Why or why not? What can I learn from that? What am I going to do next time? And that's much more like what an athlete, like what these gymnasts do. If you do that, you're certain to get better. And if you get better frequently enough, you're certain to be great. So third reason, the final reason why people often feel out of touch with what they could achieve, which is that they don't take enough risk. And that's probably the most solvable of all of these. although the hardest. I think the solution is just recognizing that your success or failure doesn't really matter that much. I think back to trying to be involved in policy when I was in high school. I was fortunate to live in the state of Massachusetts in the US that had a Department of Education that invited kids into making policy. So I actually got to be part of making a law in Massachusetts about how schools would make their rules. At the same time, I was involved in my own school in an effort to try to write an honor code, a code of rules that would be written by students, that would be ourselves enforcing our own rules, rather than have the school do it. And the second effort was a miserable failure. So the school principal allowed me to put it to a vote whether this honor code would pass, and I couldn't convince my own classmates that this was a good idea. So it failed and disappeared entirely. And when I reflect back now on almost 25 years ago, those two things, the success, if I hadn't been part of it, somebody else would have. The failure was something that would never have been tried otherwise, and that I learned more from. And I think if you reflect, whatever you do in the next 5 years, even if you're successful beyond your wildest dreams, will still be a small part of what you're even able to do in your lives. So if you focus on learning as much as you can, rather than succeeding as much as you can, you'll actually accomplish more over the course of your lifetime. And it's very liberating to look that way, because you can attempt anything. You're adding to the world by your attempt, and it doesn't matter if you fail. So my thought for all of you is today, every day, if you can choose one thing that you're focused on for now, if you can think about how you're purposefully going to get better by practicing one thing at a time the way that gymnasts do, and if you decide that you're just going to attempt, wonderful things will happen for you and for all of us.
Very interesting. I'd like to have you to give us 10 minutes every morning so that we get a lot of encouragement and the whole day. I would like to introduce Shinze Batbol, who is one of our very successful and leading businesswomen in Mongolia. She's a vice president of one of the largest petroleum distribution company called Petrobis, which owns more than 400 gasoline stations in Mongolia. And she's in charge of positioning Petrobis to be the leading energy company. Apart from her busy business work, she's also involved with social issues. She's president of Nera Club, which is a club for young entrepreneurs who supports healthy and positive way of life and who are socially responsible. She's a member of a foundation called Together Against Poverty and supported and pledged member of our Global Dignity Day, YGLs initiative. Thank you, Shinze.
Wow, that was quite an introduction. Hello everyone, my name is Shinze. Currently I'm a Vice President at Petrobis Holding. The topic that I wanted to discuss about is, I guess, a little bit about my experience in Mongolia and how it was to kind of the current situation in Mongolia and how it is to be a leader in Mongolia economy right now. And it's been a roller coaster year for me. I had this position for a year and a half now, and during that year and a half, I was a very shy girl, and now I'm getting to become a person who can lead people. And when the year started off, I needed to build a team of people who can believe in our company to become a multi-company that is not just in the petroleum sector, but is also in a lot of different sectors. So it was really a hard task, but at the same time, it was a very great opportunity for me to do that. What I found out during my ride until now is that the Mongolia right right now, the current situation. It's such an amazing era that we're living in. It's, every morning when I wake up, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm Mongolian. The reason is there's so much going on. There's so much opportunities. Probably you hear from the news and everything, the mining, the infrastructure, and all these possibilities. But the amazing thing is also is that you can be part of it. And as Ms. Logan said, we're the population of under 18 years old. There's a lot of young people here. And I think it's quite inspiring, but we do need to have very focus on human resources. So when I was building a team, right now we have 20 people at Holding. I interviewed each one combined with myself, but it was a learning experience actually. But what I found out is that human resource issue in Mongolia is the most top one, even though we have so much opportunities in Mongolia happening in all the sectors. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, and I myself wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I think along the way, the reason human resources is such an issue is because we're such a young country, and there's so much happening at the same time that we don't really have the capacity and number of people and the know-how. But I do believe that Mongolians are fast learners. We adapt easily, we change easily. I think that's very most of our very good competitive advantage. And I see our weakness to be, we have to be work as a team, because I see that Mongolians are very independent. We do like to work alone, and we do like to have our own thing. But I think together, working together and working as a team to one goal, I think that will make Mongolian leaders stronger. So we were talking about how young leaders can make a change in policy. I think by working together and have one dream or one change, even if it's what ifs, what can we do? It's very small things, and we have to try that. And during this year and a half what I experienced was that actually, if you have a passion, if you have a dream, and if you really like what you're doing, you can actually achieve a lot of things, and you could along the way inspire a lot of people also, and you do get inspiration from the people you work with. So for all the young adults and all the young Mongolians, I say we have to be very strong, we have to be very self-confident, we have to improve ourselves along the way. There's so many change going to happen in 5 years. We have to be prepared, and we have to do all we can to kind of make this country a better place. And social responsibility is number one. There's so many things happening, but at the same time, progress is happening, but at the same time, a lot of things that needs to, that needs our support and guidance, even though it's a small thing, helping schools, helping to build, even cleaning up the streets. We have to be very, very socially responsible. And we live in a city that is very crowded, very polluted, and very, very hectic. So remember the city of Ulaanbaatar when you leave, when you were young. We have to kind of make it that place. So I guess, what else? I put some notes here. Another thing that Greich asked me was, how is it to be a woman leader in Mongolia? I don't see any issues in gender. I do believe that Mongolia is a very great country in that regard. Mongolian women are very tough. They can be fighters, but at the same time, we are very family people. And as a mother and as a family person, it's really hard to manage time, but I think for all the young leaders, again, time management is the key to success. For the first year, I stumbled a lot because the young child and the family and also business running, it was really hard for me, but you have to be very, very organized, exactly. All right, so I guess this is my share of story, and thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And for women, there is always this, they are more poor because they own less property, and all these questions of glass ceiling and everything. But there is also, I think, very importantly, this term of time poverty for women. Apparently, it exists a term called time poverty, and of course, in Mongolia, like probably in many, many countries, women bear as much burden of labor, responsibility, everything, as men. And plus that, they care more of their children and elderly, like probably in many other countries. And if you look at statistics in Mongolia, how many people work? Half are women and half are men. So we work as much as men, and we do probably more work than men. When it comes to the decision making, unfortunately, it's 95% men in the parliament and only 5% women, unfortunately. But anyway, so we'll, as Shinzai said, half Mongolian women will fight to get into the high decision-making level as well, because otherwise you can't get balanced decisions there. Now, is it Gemma or Gemma? Gemma Mortensen. She's an executive director of Crisis International, which is an international non-profit established to increase the effectiveness of civil society responses to armed conflict.
Yep.
Talking about women and gender, and one sort of conscientiously goes into armed conflict, which is very admiring. Previously acted as a Crisis Action's UK director, Gemma played an integral role in developing the organization from a two-person office in London into one with offices across 3 continents with international reach at the far front of global advocacy. Gemma holds a degree in politics, philosophy and economics from Oxford, and then she did masters in human rights and democratization. Why is it a tough choice?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us. And I just want to say, as an English person who has typically terrible language skills, that I'm very, very appreciative of you all being able to understand English. It's really impressive. So you've heard some amazing tales of people's achievements, and also that was pretty fantastic kind of guru advice, I think. As you just heard, I work for a campaigning organisation. We work with civil society groups in Europe, America, Africa and the Middle East, helping them to influence government policy making. We're here to learn about Mongolia, and already we are going to be here a few hours, but I'm already myself so excited about what seems to be this wave of opportunity that's sweeping all of you up in terms of what can happen to Mongolia and to all of you in the next few years. And that, I think, means that your voice is so important. You're already so powerful. And with that becomes not only a huge amount of well, you know, the world's your oyster, the sky's your limit in terms of what you can achieve, but also a responsibility, right, to make sure that you make your voice heard in the decision-making process, and you do that as effectively as possible. So I'm not going to talk about armed conflict, you'll be pleased to hear. I'm just going to try and give you a kind of toolkit, really, in terms of what would be a checklist of things that you could run through if you wanted to change policy or influence, make change, really, in the country or in your lives. It could be local, it could be national, it could be international. And I'm going to repeat a couple of things that Kate said because they're incredibly important. The first thing is to know what you want. That sounds so simple, but so many people have a kind of fuzzy idea of the change that they want to see. You've got to know exactly what you want, because you've got to be able to knock on the door of somebody and tell them exactly what they've got to do for you. The second thing is that you've got to go and find other people who want the same thing as you do. And as Kate said, partnerships are so important. There's very little that you can do alone, but there's almost nothing that's impossible if you find the right partners and allies. I think to be a good campaigner, you need to be a good psychologist. You need to understand how people's brain work, because you're not an enemy to them. Nobody will do something because you tell them to do it. You've got to get inside their head. You've got to understand what appeals to them. And you've got to understand that the people in government or in positions of power are like you, just a few years ahead of you, you know. They're sitting in a situation where they've got real constraints. It's not just a matter of plucking a decision out of the sky. There's other people they need to convince. There's a process that it needs to go through. So you need to understand that process. You need to almost map it out, and you need to help them open the doors that they've got to open in order to get the change that you want to see come about. So that means not only understanding who makes the decisions and finding a way to get to them. If you don't know them, then I bet you know people who do. Find them, or you recruit David Beckham and get him to do it for you. And the other thing is to then really think about, you know, what are the arguments that are going to appeal to them. If it's something around natural resources, which is obviously a huge issue for Mongolia at the moment, is it going to be the business argument? Is it going to be an environmental argument? Think about who you're talking to and what argument will appeal most to them. and make sure you've done your homework so that it's backed up with really good evidence, so it's not only persuasive, but it's credible. The other thing that's very important is it's not just about the message, but the messenger. For some issues, your voice will be the most powerful and the most credible. You will inherit the future of this country. You are the future. But for some issues, maybe you speaking out won't be as effective as recruiting business leaders to do it for you, or celebrities, or finding people in positions of power that will champion your cause. And you will, as Kate said, often find that people are incredibly responsive. They just haven't been asked yet. And if you can give them a really, really clear idea of what it is that you want to achieve and you want them to help you to achieve, more often than not, people say yes. The only other thing that I would say in terms of the importance of building your network, and it's all about who has the power and influence to get where you want to go, is the appropriateness of the tactics that you choose. And we've heard here about social media, we've heard here about business processes, but sometimes it can be very, very kind of quiet persuasion that works best. Finding the right person and finding a way of getting to meet them one-on-one and really just laying out what you want to see happen. Often if it's kind of change at local level, this can happen. Sometimes it needs huge media campaigns like MTV, but it's really understanding what will unlock those gates, what will unlock the obstacles. And finally, the final point, which I think is something that's not often done enough, and I say this from my own perspective as well, is say thank you. People are more likely to continue to make the change that you want to see if you give them praise when they do the right thing. And if you're in power, I hazard a guess that very often you get more criticism than you get thanks. And if people do the right thing, to be able to give them a platform and to be able to say as civil society or the youth of Mongolia, well done, that was a fantastic thing that you did for our country, our people, thanks. Next time you go and knock on their door, they will see you not only as a kind of troublemaker, but somebody who can help them make the country better. So believing actually that anyone can be your ally, it's just a matter of how you go about persuading them, I think is that the root of all success. So good luck, and I really look forward to hearing from all of you about what it is that you're doing and the future as you see it.
Very useful, very concrete recommendations. Thank you. I wrote them myself. Thank you very much. Now it's floor for all of you here, young people, and you can ask any questions and you can raise any opinions. I think there were very wonderful cases from everybody. Everybody on this panel made a change and has been making changes, made an impact and has been making impacts, and the idea is just you have to get involved, you have to know what you want, and so please get involved and please ask questions, please raise voices. Yes, and please introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I'm a student of School of Foreign Service, which is a department of National University of Mongolia, and Mongolia has a lot of youths, and maybe about half of the population is young people. And I think that how do we influence that youth that on policy making sector is that what I view is that, for example, America has a lot of think tank institutions, and which can influence policy makers to make better decisions. And that's the think tanks is lacks in Mongolia, I think. And I think that youths have a lot of problems facing them, and to solve their problem, we have to set up small or maybe medium-sized think tank groups, which can better solve their problem instead of just large bureaucratic organizations solving their problem. It's very slow process, and I think that we need to these think tank institutions to solve this huge problem, but not just consisting of a lot of researchers, but youth itself can participate in this think tank institutions and can better solve their problem as well, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take a few 3 or 4 comments or questions and then come back to the panel. So, yes, please. Also, tell your name as well.
First of all, I'm very excited here because there are many famous and popular people in Mongolia and in the world here. I'm very happy to see people. And my name is Yoon Chen. I studied in Mongolia International University as an IT student. And I would like to mention two things here to solve young people's problem. First of all, that's education. And I'm very happy to listen Mr. Mendors's lecture. I did because he mentioned about video lecture from MIT and Harvard. I always use that videos for improving myself. But I think in Mongolia, most students don't know about that. Also, as Inkmu has a very nice ideas, and I think most of young people don't have a chance to very nice schools. But that video can help us, and we have to open it to the young generation, and we can improve ourselves. And the second thing is experience. This is actually sharing their experience. The people who are sitting in front of me today share their experience now, and very great experiences. But here, all the students have very nice experiences either. So they can share experiences through online, through network, maybe social network or something like that. But it's not like publicly taking information or something like that. And everybody can put their experience online. And also, I know about tsunami in Japan, and it was very sorrowful for us either, and Mongolian government helped financially. But I think not only financially, but also encouraging young people in Japan is very important. And but we are so far from each other. But we are one world, one heart to go forward, so that young people in Japan, children should know our experience, should know what Mongolians or what any other young people in the world do when they have problems, how they solve, how they deal with their everyday problem. Then, I don't know, maybe using online sharing experience is a great idea, but I don't know. And they can learn some ideas from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So from the second row, the young lady Elsa.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lu, and I am from the National University of Mongolia's School of Foreign Service. And I have a question for Ms. Nami. And I think the cause that you are doing for the youth of Eastern Japan is a very important thing, and we have a very similar situation in Mongolia. Every year, thousands of students come to Ulaanbaatar to study or work. And how do you make Eastern Japan attractive for the youth there, and what was the obstacles that you had to overcome?
Thank you. We'll take two more questions and then come. Yes, please.
Hello, I'm from the Mongolian International University. I major in biotechnology. I have a question, especially for the science field, for future engineers and scientists. I have two opinions. I wish that for our science field would be more improved, especially because as scientists, when we graduate, our research field and education is so limited, especially to do research in our own country because of limited equipment and laboratories. Also, the education for youngsters in high school and middle high school, the science education is not only found from books, but also practical experiences as well. I wish and I would like to know how would you like improve the field of science in Mongolia? Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the good sharing and messages. My name is Akira Sakano. I'm actually from Japan originally. Currently I'm studying here and also working for leadership development organization called ISEC. So I have actually two questions. First one is regarding to the current situation of rural area back in Japan, as the lady pointed out. Basically, we hear kind of lack of capacity at the rural community to actually develop youth in the rural community, since, as you mentioned, lots of students go out to study abroad, or to the Tokyo or major cities, since there are not really much capacity for them to actually build an educational institution or any kind of program to actually develop youth itself in the community. But I think it is really important to actually have that capacity to actually bring back youth after the education in the community. So my question is, how can we build the capacity of a rural community for developing youth in the community itself? And the second question is, looking at the current economic growth of Mongolia, it is very important to see how we can make it more sustainable as long-term development of the country. So my question is, what competency or the ability is necessary for becoming a leader to lead the sustainable development of the country in Mongolia, and how can we actually gain it? Thank you very much.
Can I come back to the panel? And so the questions were think tanks, importance of think tanks and institutions, policy formulation and involvement of youth in this process, importance of education, maybe things like distance learning, internet learning, experience sharing, what to do with how to get young people that migrate. There is more migration into towns, so how to incentivize them to go maybe back to rural areas, how to improve the field of science. And Akira's question was how to improve the capacity of rural areas for development of youth and the sustainable economic development. So any of you can raise your hands. And maybe, even though you are not on a panel, Ricardo Prado, maybe you can talk more about, where is Ricardo? I saw Ricardo somewhere. Prado Verdugo. He was Chilean Minister for Energy and Mining, so talk about mining and sustainable development. That's the main issue in Mongolia now. He's been advising at some of our workshops previously. Okay, so forget about the last sentence, and anybody please raise your hands. Maybe you can start, Nani. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. First of all, I just forgot to mention when I made a speech that thank you very much for the Mongolian people who made a generous donation to Japan. It's really, really helpful. Thank you very much. And then I believe I had several questions from you. And one thing about the think tank and how to involve young people with that to the policy making. Well, from the experience in Japan, we have the same problem actually. We don't have the young people's voice not heard by the government actually. That's what my beliefs. And for example, in this after the earthquake, we had a big revitalization plan committee established by the government. But the thing is that all the committee members, 99% of the committee members are actually men in the 60s. So that also most of them are from Tokyo. So that who is going to do the revitalization of eastern part? We need young people, as I said, and also we need women, and also we need really elderly people because there's a really a population there. So that there was pretty much disappointed about the government decision of doing that kind of committee. That's one of the drivers for me to do it ourselves with the people who want to do it. So we have the same problem. So we don't really have the solution, but I'm trying to work on that to influence the policy as well. And also as to your idea of sharing experience online, I think it's a good idea. So let me think about how we can do it together, probably. So let me know your address later, so we can share ideas later, so that we can start doing it together. And also the questions on how to kind of make rural areas probably attractive for young people to come back. I think that there are the questions from both ladies are related to that kind of area, how to make the areas good for the place for the young people. And that's exactly as I said, it's the problem in Japan even before the earthquake, and now it's more a bigger problem now. And that's why we started this project. And to tell the truth, I don't have an answer now. But through this project, I'm trying to find a good answer to it. And also with doing the mentorship to these young people in that area, I think we want to come up with the solutions that is very appropriate and suited to each local area. So I don't have good answers to it right now, but let me talk to you probably in 3 years or 5 years. Yeah, I can have more concrete answers and examples. Thank you.
I like the question about think tanks because I think it's just one example of a question that we all face about, like, you want to do this thing, but it seems sort of impossibly big. Especially, like, you look at American think tanks, and they cost so much money. It's sort of like, here I am, and I'm in my 20s, and I know how to raise $100 million to start a think tank. So just taking that as an example, like, what would you do? You might start with, like, something that Kate would know well as a marketing communications person, which is people in the media love statistics, and they love, even better, statistics that have stories behind them. So without having any money, you could say, well, could I get some statistics about what you think about things that are important in the media? Maybe you don't have any money at all, so you say, well, is there some way to use online? You say, well, all right, now I know the founder of the new media group, so I'm going to email him and see, can I collaborate on something cheap and easy that would enable me to get some numbers, and maybe using this idea around information sharing, some stories that get my name in media. And then, so once I learn how to do that, now I'm more visible. But I'm not in it to try to be famous myself, so what I'm going to do is use this platform that I'm trying to build to try to get other youth's voices out there. And then, maybe to Gemma's point about partnerships, who else cares about this? Well, maybe a company like Pepsi, who cares a lot about youth. And maybe Pepsi would give you some money to make it bigger. And all of a sudden, you start with nothing. And you started to build something that maybe doesn't look exactly like an American think tank, but looks a lot more like what might actually be needed in a country with so many youth.
I don't have all the answers, but I just want to share what I'm thinking right now, and that is, I think the solution is in this room. Because building on what Nico and what, Nami has already said, if I was going to develop a plan right now to form a youth movement, which is what I think you're saying, so you've got less than 3 million people in Mongolia, and 50% of them are youth. And you've got incredible brains in this room right now, and you're all sitting and you're listening to these messages. What I would do is huddle after this meeting, decide on who in this room wants to take on the leadership role, identify some leaders, establish your message, and then build a business plan on how you're going to get that message out. We've heard some really great suggestions from Gemma and Nico today, and in fact from all the panelists, on some of the techniques that are required to get these messages across. And it really is just a question of identifying your leaders, forming a campaign, and really understanding both your audience and your message. And then the world's your oyster, or Mongolia's your oyster. And I just truly believe that the talent is in this room, and don't let this opportunity run away with you. Like, just do it. Just do it.
Great answer. Question then. I think, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that if youth, you and me and you guys, if we rely on something, for example, saying we don't have this, we have less population, we have money or less resource, that's not going to happen anyway. Anything will not happen. So I think sometimes we have to be happy about what we have. I think there are many, not many, but I think there are, for example, think tank organizations in Mongolia, or community, or clubs, or something. For example, we know that, for example, Zerk Foundation is running a leadership class or training program in Mongolia. There are a lot of, Mongol dignity movement is kind of movement that is trying to build this youth leadership in society. So, true, I used to be blaming my school not teaching well or something, or blaming something which is not going to happen or something. But I got the idea that, as Kate said, if you're not going to do, nothing will happen. So, we should just do it. Why we need to ask somebody or rely on something? Or when we are youth, we are the age of putting our hand in the tiger or wolf, or So we should just do it. About the education one, I think, as we know, in the rural area, we seem having a difficulty in internet or something, right? So what we are trying to build is building the offline universities that every SUM or AMI can access and have the class when they focus on what they can do or something. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we can go back to some questions and ideas, voices. Yes, Grace first.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a student of the School of Foreign Service, and my name is Kurte. And first of all, I would like to thank all of you for sharing your experience and inspirational ideas. And I feel like I used to work with children when I was in school, and I felt like at that time I felt like they had a lack of self-esteem. So if you don't have self-esteem, it doesn't mean you can't move. It means you can't move. So even among the students, university or college students, they have a lot of lack of self-esteem. And I'd like to ask, what do you guys do to be persuasive and to be inspirational, to get their to make them more confident people. That's all.
There's some. I'll stand up for the back office. That's it.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the delegates to come here and share their opinions and your experience. Well, listening to think tank question. I was thinking, as a young people, like I was like that a few years ago, but I'm not really old, not right now. But all the young people, like most of the young people, are really in a hurry to get into the position they want. Like they just want to go straight to the executive position or something that, you know. What I'm trying to say is you don't need to be really in a hurry. Like you have a lot of time ahead of you, and if you just plan and to start doing it from the, you know, start taking small steps, you will get there eventually. So that's the one opinion. But another one is Ms. Ayun was asking us to think about how can we the young people's idea can reach to the parliament or high officials of the government. So I was thinking maybe the uniting is the uniting is the best way. Now these days we have a lot of ways to unite and make a group. We can do it through Facebook. Like I saw a lot of people just creating a group on their own experience or on their own like. I myself created a group for Dalai Lama for supporting Tibet or something, and I got a lot of experience and a lot of comments from the other people, and that through this way we can make a bigger groups and start telling our opinions to the high officials. And I saw some of the Mongolian parliament people, high officials, started to appear on the Facebook. Actually, the Mongolian president, Logan, he's my Facebook friend. But I think that's the way, good way to communicate with the young people for the high officials, and we can also, tell our opinions to them through the social network. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you. So I will take 2 more questions. Because I had also a request from some of the audience that they would like to know who are you as well at the back. So we'll take 2 more questions. Go to introducing the other YGLs, and then we'll have to finish in 10 minutes, okay?
Hello everyone, and I'm from MIU Mongolian International University, and I'm studying biotechnology and food science major. And first of all, I so thank you for all our presenters, and it's good to hear the words to help for our future. And then I have 2 things for talk. First is in our Mongolia, I think we need more science, science way and science foundations. Because just for example, if something happens and if we want to test, and then we can test in our area, we have to just our test to go to Korea or in some abroad places. So it is so it is, I think, it's bad for our future. And also second thing is, you guys said just do it, and our young guys just can do it, but we have also financial problem. All we know is it is just good to talk about it, and if I wish if there is some chance to help for a financial problem for us, some kind of, if your GPA over 4 or 4.4 something like that, can you just help for support for us? I want to ask this. That's it.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? My name is Stefan and I study in National University of Mongolia as a foreign service. And I'd like to say that in Mongolia, the educational system, I just want to be in brief. So, in Mongolia, educational system is not highly developed as America or other European countries. So, 3 years ago, I was in high school, and after I enrolled into the university, I realized that how was the educational system of Mongolia in mid-school and high school was very bad. So last year I thought I was thinking about it, how to make it better as like other countries. So I thought if we can educate our child and in school, then we can have a highly developed brain features. So right now we are featured, and I was surprised that Mrs. Kate Roberts, and that you do take help from the celebrities and communicate with them, MTV, and a lot of things. So I want to share my mind about to make my dream come true. Even though I'm learning in foreign service, I have a dream to make Mongolian education system will be high, as like other countries. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being very active. We can't take all the questions, but we will have some answers here. Maybe we'll have how do you lack of self-esteem, how to become confident, and about the uniting of youth and bringing the youth voice to the decision makers. More science-based, knowledge-based policies and decisions. If you don't have funding money, what do? Quality of education. Maybe anyone can start with quality of education. Anyway. Yes, Kate. Oh, sorry, because you looked at me.
Are you volunteering me?
Because
All right.
the question was...
Well, I love the young lady's question about self-esteem because, it's terrifying. I understand that. It's completely terrifying. And personally, I can only speak from my own experience. I started to gain my self-esteem through just experiences. And I was lucky enough to travel. I would really recommend, if you have the opportunity to travel and just to get some life experience. I've got some tips to share that works for me. First of all, I like to say that I'm fearless because the only thing to worry about is the word no. That's it. And it's not terrifying. And the more you hear it, the stronger you get. And so that's when I'm going into a situation, that's what I'm thinking. The worst thing that can happen is they can say no. The second little tip is, when I'm aggressively going about my business, sometimes I think to myself, if this person is particularly intimidating, I think, you know what? You were born naked, and you will die naked. And it really helps me, because we're all the same. We're all the same people. And I guess the other thing is just about being relentless. A huge part of being successful is networking. We've had lots of questions about I need money, I need to you've identified your passion, you want to build education. You've heard from all of us that you get strength from partnership. You can reach anybody in this life. You can reach anybody in this life because there's 6 degrees of separation. you will know somebody in your network that can help you. And as long as you can articulate general, and I think it's such a wise piece of advice, as long as you can articulate what it is you want, you can find it. You can find somebody who can help you, as long as you're passionate and you're relentless.
Well, probably the first degree from first Mongolian to have a degree on, well, what's it called? Education policy? Masters in Education Policy. So that's the right person to talk about how to improve quality of education in Mongolia, I suppose.
So I just want to talk about like how to promote engineering and science in Mongolia, and specifically for high school students. I worked with the American high school students. I taught them some engineering classes, and my advisor, Professor Blixton at Stanford, is the head of the fabrication lab, and we taught in the lab. Basically, we have 3D printer, laser cutter, and then electronics. So my knowledge from MIT, I kind of mixed them together and taught students from local high schools. And I realized that it actually promotes the students to, when they're in high school, hands-on experience, and promote them to learn science and engineering in their university degree. And I'm also working on bringing this fabrication lab to Mongolia. And my dream would be, one fabrication lab per school. Every school has this fabrication lab. It will promote science and technology, as well as art. So, when we do something with the laser cutter, it involves arts as well. So, and also I'd like to encourage everybody in this room to apply university for master's degrees, PhDs. There's a new GRE, which is acceptable for MBA programs now, and starting from the 1st of August, which is last month. And please, take the exam and apply for the universities. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Then we go to our other YGLs, and everybody can introduce yourselves very briefly. And I'm sorry we can't stand up because of the mic, and you can't, but you will hear us at least.
My name is Theodoros Ashnafi. I'm a YGL from Ethiopia. Just very quickly, I think you've heard the panelists. One thing I'd like to add is please incorporate your existing cultural greatness in looking at things in the future. So one of the issues with being young is that you don't have the experience, and some of the elders in your society have a lot of wisdom, so let's not discard that. Incorporate that into whatever you want to do in the future. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Yana Peel. I'm a Russian-born, Hong Kong-based YGL. I run a media organization called Intelligence Squared Asia. We focus on bringing debates about politics, economics, and culture to audiences across Asia and the world through the BBC. And we put the profits of the organization back into education projects in the region, which empower the young community through communication skills. I'm also involved in the arts. I run an arts organization, and it's been very much an honor to see both the arts and the finance that we've been exposed to in your country in the past 2 days. I think the takeaway for me is to be the change that you want to see and the change that you want to be in the world, which is a phrase I did not coin, but Gandhi did. And I think that any of the people that I met over my past 2 days, if you asked them what they wanted to be when they grow up, no one would have said they wanted to be a young global leader. They just took the passion that Kate alluded to. They took that passion, and with a clear path, they applied it to whatever it was that drove them forward. And now looking back, I think they became that change. And hopefully, looking at you, you will also be the change for this country's future and the future of the world. Thank you.
My name is Andrea Stürmer. I come from Switzerland and I work for an insurance company called Zurich Financial Services. One of the great things of working for an insurance company is that when these disasters strike, one of our jobs is to go in and help really quickly. And being connected with many things that happened last year in Chile or earlier this year, be it in New Zealand, in Australia, in Japan, large tornadoes in the US. As an insurance company, we're there to pick up the pieces, and it actually gives me a lot of joy to work for such a company. Thank you very much for this very inspiring session here, and I've been to Mongolia before, and it's very nice to come back.
My name is Stefan Greich. I'm from Seoul, Korea. I work for the Hanwha Group, which is one of the top 10 conglomerates in Korea, and it's actually my first time in Mongolia, and I think it's only been a day now, but I think I can already sense the potential, the energy, and the youth in the country, and I hope to have a more lasting relationship and a growing relationship with the country of Mongolia. Thank you very much.
My name is Christopher Logan. I live in Hong Kong, lived in a lot of different countries and cities around the world. First time in Mongolia, very inspired listening to all of you. And it reminds me of an old African proverb, which is the question is, when is the best time to plant a tree? Which is, the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago. When is the second best time to plant a tree? It's today. You all were not around 30 years ago, but you're here today. And so I think that's my takeaway from listening to all of you and panelists. It's time to plant a tree.
Hi, my name is Javier Garcia Martinez. I'm a scientist from Spain. In a learning journey here in Mongolia, learning from you, I have to say I'm very impressed to see how much emphasis you are putting in education and in science in particular. I wish I would see the same in Europe today. I have to say also that when there are so many young people, there's one good thing in a democracy, that you can put your votes demanding for more emphasis in education, more spending in education. You need a new generation of scientists in this country. If you don't have enough education here, go abroad as I did, go back to your country and champion on education and science. You cannot be selling your natural resources. You need to add value to that, and that's only coming from science and technology. So, for what it's worth, people here in the parliament put a little bit of that hyper growth that you are experiencing that we don't have in Europe anymore in your human capital.
So I can stand up because I don't have a microphone. I hope you can all hear me. My name is David Roden. I come from New Zealand, and I am a philosopher. I work at the University of Oxford in England, and I work on issues around value, ethics, and morality in the global domain. So one of the things about being a philosopher is you don't have any real material resources to bring to bear. I don't work for an organization with millions or billions of dollars under management. I don't have hundreds or thousands of people who work for me. All that you have as a philosopher is your ideas and your thoughts and your energy in bringing those to bear on problems. And the World Economic Forum is an organization that really believes in this idea that ideas and thoughts deployed in the right way can really change the world. And the thing about ideas is that they grow, they develop, and they get stronger through exchange and through discussion. So I would encourage all of you to engage and continue in that process of discussion and exchange amongst yourselves, amongst us, within your country and globally. Final thought, we've had a lot of talk about Mongolia as a really young country, but of course Mongolia is also an ancient country. So we were just at a school before we came here where we saw a picture of 20 or 25 generations of the Genghis Khan. And I think that that's also an incredible source of strength for you as a nation as you go through this period of amazing growth you're about to go through. And I hope that you will always retain and develop that sense of yourself, your distinctness, and your culture. Thank you very much.
Hello, it's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Stefan Greich. I'm from Portugal. I was born in Britain, so I'm also British. I'm currently living in Mozambique. I've had the pleasure of living also in many countries. And as you can see, it's almost a pattern in our group that people have lived or studied or worked in many countries. This is extremely important for the future of the youth and for the future of a nation. So I'm sure we all encourage your international exposure, be it with studies or with a working experience. It's very important, and obviously the level of English is very high, so you won't have any difficulties living abroad. But I'm living in Mozambique now, and actually to be here in Mongolia is extremely interesting because there's many common things between Mongolia and Mozambique. And one of the things that is not in common is the temperature. The temperature here is quite low compared to Mozambique, but on the other hand, the growth you are experiencing is very similar to Mozambique. It's also a developing country in Africa, obviously, with very, very high growth, and the commodities and the natural resources. And I think these countries like Mozambique, Angola, Mongolia, and many other developing nations in the world really have to look into the future, and you will be the future, and you have to prepare a sustainable future with your resources, because otherwise you'll find out that they will run out pretty soon, and the next generation will not be able to benefit from those resources. So it is very important that the future is prepared in mind with what can be done sustainably with education and with good thought. So thank you very much.
Salut. Mini Mir Mark Terrell. Hello, my name is Mark Terrell. I am an entrepreneur, technology entrepreneur. I like breaking things. I like doing big things, and I'm extremely lazy. Professor Einstein, used to teach undergraduate physics at Princeton University. His second year students would get a big shock because in their second year examination, they would receive last year's examination questions. They would be very, very surprised, and finally one student would say, excuse me, Professor Einstein, you've made a mistake because you've given me last year's questions. Einstein would just smile and say, well, while it is true that I've given you last year's questions, this year the answers are all different. If you look at Mongolia 5 years ago, 10 years ago, clearly this year and next year the answers are all different. This is very, very important, so I'd like you to think about that, and when you go on your journey, try to do something big. So, Baila, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Daisuke Iwase. I'm an entrepreneur from Japan. I run an online life insurance business. So just repeating the praise for all of you that my colleagues have expressed already. Coming from Japan, I'm very impressed with both your perspectives, insights, as well as your language fluency. I cannot gather this many young people in Japan that speak English as good as you. So I praise you for that. And also coming from a very elderly or aged society, I envy you a lot. We have, the majority of our population is starting to get old and old, so that has a lot of impact on the way the youth behave and act. So I think my friends, the young youth in Japan, will envy you a lot. And actually, my friend Akira Sakano, the student that's spending time here, she is one of the best and brightest students in Japan, but she's decided to come over and spend time with you. That says something. But it's very difficult in a stagnant or matured society to have positive dreams for the young people for the future. And from that front as well, I think you have a wonderful future ahead of you. So I think many of us, at least in my case, when I was in college, I never dreamed of running an online insurance business myself. I was studying law, and I always believed I was going to be a lawyer. And 13, 14 years out, I'm doing this crazy insurance business. So maybe 12, 13 years out, many of you will be doing something that you never dreamed of. But I'm very happy that I turned out that way, because the perspectives I had when I was a student was so small and so limited, and now maybe 10 years from now I want to be doing something that I cannot even dream of now. So hopefully you all will be doing something wild and crazy, something that will change the world. So please believe in yourself, believe in your instinct, and good luck for the future of you all. Thank you.
I'm Special Envoy for Natural Resources for the Dutch government, which means I'm sort of an ambassador without a country but on a topic. And I live in a country which has about, I think, 5 times more people than Mongolia, but a territory about 40 times smaller. So you can realize that resources are very important for us. And you are incredibly lucky to have incredible, beautiful nature, and that you discovered so many natural resources to export in the future. And as is being expressed here as well, there's a big danger that you become too dependent on this resource and you don't develop a strong economy. So I wish you with knowledge and with patience to develop a very strong, diversified economy, to look what you're really interested in yourselves and use the money you get from the resources to develop a stable economy for the future of Mongolia.
Very inspiring session. Thank you, everybody, here, every YGL. We don't have too much time left because we'll have an interesting lunch with our Prime Minister. I hope that we recharged our batteries and we got a lot of inspiration. So enjoy today and enjoy the world. Thank you very much.
If you don't mind, if you have the time for like 1 or 2 minutes.